Welcome everybody. Thank you for staying for the last part of the Yom Iyun. Very nice to be back here after a long time of not being here in this position. So nice to be back home, back in the old town, back home. As the title says, today we're going to talk about the scary G word. I'm not going to say which word that is. You're going to figure it out yourselves. And there are all kinds of scary words that start with a G. And basically, I'll tell you a little story, something that happened to me lately. I usually don't, I'll confess, I don't really attend Torah classes so much. I usually like to learn on my own, with Chavrusa. Baruch Hashem, I have a good Chavrusa, with Talmidim. But I did attend at some point, some time ago, I attended a Torah class, and the speaker was very, very good, very inspiring, and very entertaining. And he laced the talk with lots of jokes, which I also like. I sometimes try to also joke around when I talk with certain modicum of success. And but it was interesting because the topic of the talk was Yiras Shamayim, awe. It's interesting how we combine Yira with laughing and jokes and laughter. That was interesting, but he managed. Then at some point, he managed very offhandedly, the speaker, whom I appreciate a lot, and I will not hint who he is, it's a good, great person, good ashkafa. The person mentioned the G word, which was Gehenim. Please stay seated, it's okay. We're not going to have any fire and brimstone, not today. Wait till later. And the speaker spoke about Gehenim very, very, offhandedly, very by the way kind of way. And he said, you think Gehenim is what you think. It's not what you think, because you can't have fire in Gehenim. Because Gehenim, the neshamas are all spiritual, and fire is physical. So it's b'chlal not what you think. Ha ha ha. And then he made another joke about it. And then, the talk continued to another inspirational story, v'chulei. And I was left feeling a little bit, that something here must be rectified. I did not approach him about that. I had other issues to talk to him about. So I decided, instead of kvetching and complaining, which is what I usually like to do, I'd actually try. Those who know me know that's my fun stuff. That's my Gan Eden. But actually, I decided to get the answers right and try and rectify this thing that really in Yiddishkeit, the concept of sechar ve'oinish is a very, very important yesod, something very fundamental, very important dogma in our belief. I don't like the word religion, but otherwise I would have said it. And yes, there is Gan Eden, Baruch Hashem, Netzach Netzachim, amazing and good, and there's also Gehenim. This thing does exist. The Gemara talks about it extensively, and for very obvious reasons, and in a way I understand that speaker too. It's not very fashionable. It's not in fashion to talk about Gehenim because we want to be Mekarv people. You can't be Mekarv people with Gehenim. Certain people, yes, actually, but most people not. And our own, in our community, so many people going for the derech. So, if you go to any, Torah website and Torah convention and Torah v'chulei, the G word, the Gehenim word, is usually omitted. I think this is wrong because I'll just quote first of all something from one of the Meforshim, En Yaakov. He says that Gehenim is one of the, as we'll see later, one of the 7 things that were created before the world was created. Why? Because Gehenim is one of the most important components, so to speak, of creation. Ilulei pachad, quoting, Ilulei pachad ve'emes Gehenim nisra b'chor timod. If not for the fear and awe of Gehenim, people would sin more. Yeah, shelo yiskar ma'olam. Yeah, in other words, although obviously it's debatable whether people should behave or act upon fear of Gehenim, how much of that should be, but to a certain level, yes, this thing does exist. And if we close our eyes like ostriches, then 2 bad things happen. If we behave like an ostrich and we just avoid the Gehenim and not talk about it as if it doesn't exist, 2 things will happen. First of all, Gehenim, as far as you know, will not disappear, whether we like it or not. It's not like if you never ever spoke about it or heard about it, like the 3 monkeys. It's not like the person can sin his whole life, and then at the end of, he comes to the pearly gate, excuse me, and then it will be all peaches and cream. No, I don't think so. It doesn't sound like that from the Talmud. And secondly, what's even worse It's like, people who don't want to talk to the children about tznius or to certain level effects of life. What happens when you don't talk to your child about certain things? He starts being uninformed, and then he'll be eventually misinformed. Even I know the difference. Kol shekin you English speakers. He won't be uninformed who doesn't know. He'll be misinformed, which means they get the wrong information. If you don't teach your child certain things, that's not the issue today. He'll hear it from the cool kid in class and he'll get a very distorted picture of things. Same thing with Gehenna. People don't want to talk about it because it's too, it's a touchy subject, and why should I mention that? Even by preparing this year, I told friends of mine, yeshiva people, I told them I'm going to talk about Gehenna, so they're like, why don't you talk about something else? I'm talking about very frum yeshiva Haredi people. It's like such a taboo issue that what happens is people become misinformed, and then what happens? People are less into, who don't have the exposure to the Gemara, to the sources, they get very misinformed. And who do they hear it from? From some Christian stand-up comedian on YouTube. That's better. They get even worse information, and that drives them off even more from Yiddishkeit, the deity. And all I want to do now, really, as I said again, I'll probably say 10 more times, no fire and brimstone. But I think we have to just get some facts, that's all. I just made some research in the past few days to just, figure out interesting facts, a little bit of Ashkafa. I won't go even very deep with all kinds of Moshe Shapiro ideas. I'm not going there right now. We're going to get some facts. And actually, as the talk will progress, I think we'll see the ray of hope at the end of the, at the end of the tunnel. We'll see the light that even in the context of Gehenna, there are many, many good things, many eitzes and many blessings can come out of that. So let's start with, okay, that's very hot tea. Sorry, I said no Gehenna jokes, right? So, thank you. Oh, that was as hot as hot tea. Okay, so now, let's deal with this speaker's question. Yeah, which he didn't. If we're going to be in Shemaim, however we're going to look like, it's something spiritual. The body goes down to the kever, as it says in Koheles, and as we know, and the Neshama goes up to wherever. Yeah, so how can fire, which is something physical, affect the Neshama, which is spiritual? That's not a joke, it's just a good question, right? Because it does say fire. So, the Rambam in Hilchas Tshuva, Perek Ches, Hilchas Tshuva is something a lot of people learn in the Rambam, myself included. And to quote the Meforshim, the Noise Kelim in the Rambam, I believe this is from the Ramban, and this is quoted by one of the Meforshim there. He says, Enochinami, the speaker was right. Of course, our physical fire, yeah, believe me, that wasn't planned because of yesterday fires. That's another nakuda, yeah? So the fire, as strong as it is, and I woke up this morning feeling like I'm in the middle of a barbecue. So, no, it doesn't burn the nefesh. True. V'chule v'chule, ela, so what's the story? So how does it work? As much as we understand, Kishem shabar nefashas hazako setehoiros yisbarach shmoi. Just like Hashem created neshamas that are refined and pure and very spiritual, yeah, kedesh b'chol delivro eish daka l'chaloisa. So too the fire is something very refined that can burn and consume those neshamos. In other words, that fire of Gehenna is the refined dak midak, the thinnest, the most refined, as opposed to our fire, which is physical. And then he says the words, these are famous words which I heard from another Baal Machshav, a friend of mine, who guf dak me'oid. There's a certain guf dak that stays in Shemaim. Both the nefesh and the eish, they have something which is semi-physical, a little bit, it's just much more refined. And whichever physical aspect there is, the guf dak that there is, that is burnt by the fire. But that eish is very, very dark, as opposed to our eish, which is gashmi, which is physical. The eish of Gehenna is much more dark. Rach is something more spiritual and refined. But something physical burns the physical. Something spiritual can burn the spiritual, and that's about it. So in a way, the speaker was right. Yeah, in other words, the eish of Gehenna is not what you imagine, because you imagine fire. What we saw yesterday in, Yerushalayim Tel Aviv Road, and really it's not, it's something very spiritual. That's unfortunately, I'm not trying to be hard on anybody here, but it's not a reason for a joke actually, because it does not change what the Gemara says in Brochus Daf Nun Zayin. The Gemara says over there that there are 5 things in the world which are echad mishishim. Yeah, 1 out of 60. What are those things? What is 1 of 60? What does 1 out of 60 reminds you? Bittul, right? Yeah, you can have a little bit of treif chicken, treif chicken soup in a pot of 60 keneged that. Go ahead and have the soup if your wife is not watching. Then that's the kosher lefi the Shulchan Aruch. Now there are 5 things that are echad mishishim, eveilu and eish, dvash, honey, Shabbos, Shena, sleep, and Shalom, dream. And Eish is 1 out of 60th of Gehenna, meaning the fire that we have in this world is only 1 out of 60th. It is 1/60th echad mishishim, a fraction, 1/60th of the fire of Gehenna. That's not good news. And Dvash is 1/60th of the man. Honey is only 1/60th of the beautiful good taste of the man in the midbar. Shabbos echad mishishim lo'olam haba. Olam haba, so we're going to talk about Gan Eden also. I promise we're going to end up with a nice happy ending about Gan Eden. So the Shabbos is amazing. Shabbos is, however you imagine the best Shabbos in your life. So then echad mishishim for Olam haba. It's only 1/60th of Olam haba. Sheina echad mishishim lamita. Sleeping is 1/60th of death. It's a taste of death. A dream is 1/60th of prophecy, of nevuah. Says the Maharsha, 2 pshatim. The second pshat of the Maharsha is that 1/60th is not bottle, right? If you follow the words closely, echad mishishi means that there's only 59 against that piece. In other words, so the fire we have in this world is ke'ein. You feel a taste of the fire of Gehenna. In other words, 1 out of 60 is not bottle. You need 60 against the 1. If you have 59 against the 1 piece, it's not bottle. You still feel the taste of the treifet chicken or the chazir. So Gehenna, he says, still has a little bit of taste. The fire that we have as carrying, as consuming as it is 1/60th of Gehenna. There's still something there. The Ben Yoda has worse news for us, and I'm quoting, the fire of Gehenna is otzum v'rav. It's great and it's powerful. The fire of Gehenna is 100,000 times stronger than the fire that we know. So why does it say 1/60th? Because that's what people can relate to. Ben Yoda knows that the Gemara is written for people who know halacha, and everybody knows about 1 out of 60. A lot of chilonim also know that, by the way. They know about the concept. Guess it works right for some people. So then 1 out of 60 is the Gemara's way to relate to bitul. But really the bitul is endless, and the fire of Gehenna is something so different, but unfortunately much, much worse than the fire of this world. So we're starting with bad news, but just be aware, just awareness, and then we'll build up towards the good news. Having that in mind, that the fire of Gehenna is much more spiritual, and at the same time much stronger, actually makes sense. If you're a believing person, as the Rishonim say, mind over matter. In other words, the Ruchnius is really much stronger than Gashmius. Some people were willing to suffer horrendous, terrible torture, even going, because of their beliefs. I just read yesterday, preparing that, the Skulen Rebbe from Romania, I think it was Skulen, from Romania, they tortured him terribly, physically for a year, terrible physical Yisurim, and he did not snitch, he did not tell on other Jews. What does it mean? You see that the spiritual is stronger than the physical. It's one of the biggest yesodis in Hashkafa, and so too the spiritual fire is stronger than the physical one. That explains something else. That explains why the Eish of Gehenna was created in a different day than the Eish that we know in Olam Hazeh. The fire, there's a whole debate in the Gemara, in Psachim Daf Nun Daled. The Gemara discusses when were different things created. Not those things that we learned about in Kita Aleph that are written in Bereshis black and white. There are all kinds of, the subtext things that were created. The Gemara says it's a whole debate, but to cut a long story short, basically the Gemara says that the Halal of Gehenna, whatever that means, we'll discuss later, was created before day 1. There are 7 things, as we mentioned, that were created before day 1. They were created in day 0. Like before the Bereshis, the first page, Oiz V'hodar, thank you for the donor who donated the Chumash, so they're created then, and then there is a real creation. However, the fire of Gehenna was created on the second day of creation, and the fire, as we know, the human fire was created when? We all stand there nice and proud, Motzei Shabbos, with a candle, Motzei Shabbos. So the fire of Gehenna was created on Monday, and the fire of Bnei Adam, the fire as we know it, was created on Motzei Shabbos. Why is that? So, says the Rabbeinu David, one of the Rishonim, he says, "Mipnei shanivroim rishoino," yeah, is the earlier they were created in the story of creation. The earlier, day 1, day 2, the earlier. Hem yoser dakim, the more spiritual and refined, v'kroivim l'siba harishoino. Yeah, v'kroivim l'siba harishoino. In other words, they're more similar to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu is not a being that we can see. The more gashmi things are, the more Kadosh Baruch Hu is really hiding himself and creating more and more mechitzas, more and more walls between him and the world. That's the idea of creation. The Sar Mamoros, Hashem is like hiding himself behind many screens to allow us the Bechir Chovshis, discussed it before in Mishnah Ahavas, Shalom Amarois, and therefore the Eish of Motzei Shabbos is something Gashmi because it was created at the end of the story. Eish Gehenim is something much more Ruchni and therefore stronger, and that was created on Monday. Now, what else is special about Monday? I'm not sure where to go now to talk about the 7 things about Gehenim. Let's now stay. Should we stay in Gehenna? I didn't mean that, Sorry, I didn't mean it. Not physically. Yeah. Let's stay on the topic of Gehenna. I'll be happy to hear questions later. Yeah. Don't grill me. Sorry. The Kevan. Yeah. So now continues Rabbeinu David. Why Dafka on the second day? What else was created on the second day? What's a special thing about second day? That's my first question. Yeah. What was the unique quality characteristic? Very good, I know what you mean, on the second day. And secondly, as I said before, offhandedly, we said that the halal of Gehenna, whatever that means, like the space of Gehenna, the halal, space, the place was created before, the concept was before the creation of the world, but the fire was created on the second day. What does it mean? Why second day? What's the separation with the halal? Oh. So now go back to where we started off. There are 7 things that were created before the world, and these are Torah. What else? Teire. There's no world. Torah is it. That's it. There's nothing else besides it. The Tshuva, the Gan Eden, the Gehenim. Gan Eden, Gehenim. The Kisa Kovod, Ubeis Hamikdash. Ushmo Shel Mashiach. Same. That's in the same Goran Pesachim. And again says Yun Yaakov. These are the things the world was created for. The world, there's not a physical world, and then we're looking for religion, we're looking for escapism, like some people think. No, the whole world was created in order to, it's just a tool. The world is a tool in order to get somewhere. What's that somewhere? What's the plan? What's the story? What's the blueprint? It's like somebody builds a beautiful building. What are they building it for? Housing, residential, lawyers' offices, what? Government building, what? A Hamas building, what are they building here? Hospital, what are they building here? So therefore, we have to understand these 7 things are the raison d'etre of the world, and some of them are ways to maintain the world. You create the maintenance, the catch-all before you create the world, and these, as we said before, Gehenim and Gan Eden are part of it, because without Gehenim, unfortunately, that's how we act. Of course, we act out of Ahava, and we love Hashem, we want to get close, and we want to get to Gan Eden. But there's also Yira. Yes, the carrot and the stick, the big carrot and the big stick were created before the world, but that's the halal of Gehenim, says the Gemara. The Eish of Gehenim was created on the second day. Why the second day? Again, I didn't yet answer the question. Don't let me get away with that. Why is it Dafka the second day? So I had this idea in mind, and that I was happy to see this in Rabbeinu David. The things that were created in the second day was separation. The whole concept of number 2 means there's not just one, there's 2. Right? Meaning, once there's 2, then there is not one. It's not like one entity is holding all the power. There are 2 entities. You can run your own business very nicely. Then there's a partner that changes the dynamics completely. A person, a Bachur in Yeshiva, lives his own life. He gets married. Whoop! That's a big revolution, whichever way. There's always a partner, a whole different story. You don't decide things on your own anymore, as if you did before. So now, says Rabbeinu David, who were created on the second day, which is the day of separation, the Malachim. Malachim were created on the second day, because if Malachim would be created on the first day, he says, people would have thought that Michael and Gabriel were helping Hashem The world was created by a team. We have a team, Hashem and the angels, your team, to create a whole new world for you. .com. So that wasn't the story. We shouldn't chas v'shalom such a machshava. And therefore, the malachim were created on the second day. And malachim are again something that is very misleading. People can chalila, and they do. They attribute independent powers to the malachim, to the angels, and not to Hashem. There are in some religions for sure. So therefore, the second day, which is a day of separation, I'm quoting, Lahara shibaru barishoin. The malachim should not be created, and were not created on the first day. Nivru b'sheni. Umin ha-malachim shenivru b'sheni, amukan be'eshel gehenim shenivru b'sheni. V'oisam yusad miyosad ha'esh shenivru ba'malachim. Very, very interesting. In other words, the malachim themselves are made out of fire. So is Gehenim. Interesting. Fire works both ways. We see it in this week's parsha also. Nadav and Avihu were burnt. Last week's parsha. Nadav and Avihu were burnt with the same fire, which was a good fire that burnt the korbanos. Was the same fire who went through the bodies. So fire is fire, for good or for bad. So the malachim, some kind of separation, were created on the second day. It's confusing already. We're not sure if it's Hashem, the malachim, what's going on. The shamayim here, there's water over here, water over there. This is physical water. The water up there, says the Talmidei Agros, say the spiritual water. It's already confusing. That's why the second day did not get that title, the stempel of Kitov. Only the third day. Third day is a different story. That's where things got together better. So now, continuing from Avodas HaKodesh, the same idea. Now we're going to get a nice idea why fire again was in the second day. He says because in the first day everything was besoid hayamin shu achdus ha'amiti. First day was all unity, all one, Hashem echad. It was first day, no shayla. The second day, there's havdalah v'shnius. There's one, there's two, all kinds of stories, Some people believe in three. V'chul lahavdil v'amachloikes nivras b'besmol. Second day was the day of machloikes. If we suffer from machloikes, we should blame Monday. What do they say in America? I don't do Sundays. Really, Monday is the bad kid. Monday is the bad kid of the creation. That's when machloikes was created. Everything was b'shleimus v'achdus. Now comes the small. Says the Avodas HaKodesh to Meir ben Gabbai, "B'mechloikes ahu she'ira small v'ashnius nivra gehenim." Boom! Now there's room for the fire of Gehenim to come in. U'basmal misor v'dovek. He hangs. He likes the left wing. Nothing against leftists or anything, but apparently the right hand is achdus and the left hand is mechloikes. I guess some things don't change. And what happens then? The second day of the small of the left. That's when you have mechloikes and confusion, and you have the fire of Gehenim created from there. I thought of maybe to give some explanation here. To when is the shir? To one? Okay, good. So now could be the pshat is azoy. That I did hear from Rav Tatz, and I saw it also in the Sefer Sifsei Chaim. What happens really when people lo aleinu, and we're going to discuss this later, when people are in Gehenim, the worst thing possible, we're always scared to imagine, and thank you for staying seated, it's very nice of you. But what's going on there? Lamaisa, in Gehenim, there's a chance to be Mekadesh Shem Shamayim. Why? Because what do Korach children say when they are screaming in Gehenim? They say, we all jump, in Simchas Torah. What we have in Simchas Torah, by the way, is not the right version. The Gemara says in Bava Basra Daf in Dalad Mudalef, Moshe v'Toros emes, not Moshe emes v'Toros emes, Moshe v'Toros emes v'anachnu badoim. That's what they scream. The biggest koifrim in the world were Bnei Korach. They're the first reform movement. Like, who says you're the rabbi? Tell me what to do, right? So that was them. They started that. The first reform synagogue was Korach. And what? And now they're believing, they're screaming, Moshe v'Toros emes v'anachnu badoim. We're the liars. So what they say, I'm sure of the Sifsei Chaim quotes it from earlier sources, I don't remember who, he says the whole world was created for what? For Kavod Shamayim. The reason why there is a world here, we are here to be marbe, to create more and more Kavod Shamayim. We spoke about the 7 things. Kisal Kovoid, Beis HaMikdash, it's all Kiddush Shem Shamayim. Torah, Tshuva, it's all Kiddush Shem Shamayim. Now, if you give Hashem Kovoid, and that's Kiddush Hashem is the purpose of your life, that's how you're supposed to die al Kiddush Hashem, and that's how Chilul Hashem is the worst aver possible that even after Yom Kippur and after Tshuva and after Yisurim, it's not enough, right? Mishnah and Yuma, you need to die, and only then you mechaper and chilul Hashem, because you're just missing your purpose here. Yeah, you bring a worker and he doesn't do the work, you fire him straight away. So because Kiddush Shem Shamayim, Kvod Shem Shamayim is the purpose, lechatchila, do it the right way. You live in Olam Hazeh, have fun in Olam Hazeh. What's fun? Put on tefillin and give tzedakah and learn and enjoy the learning and be Mekadosh Shem Shamayim with all the challenges. That's a tafkid. That's plan A. What's plan B? Those who merited to make it to Gehenim, by the way, Gehenim is a zchus, as we'll see later. Those who merit to make it to Gehenim and they suffer, wow, they see, oh, that was real. Like, up until now I made fun of everything. I was a cynic. Yeah, I barely kept mitzvah sif at all. Now, oh my gosh, that's real fire. Oh, they were right all these years, says the sinner when he's in Gehenim. That's another form of Kvod Shem Shamayim. As Rav Friedlander says it in Hebrew, yeah, you either give kavod to Hashem or Hashem takes it. Yeah, either you give or Hashem takes it without your will in the bad way. Plan B. So maybe that's pshat over here, possibly. That's my own pshat. I don't know if it's true or not. That's why I'm sharing it with you, my friends. The halal of Gehenim, the concept of Gehenim was created before the world was created because you need that. That's one of the bases of the world. The esh of Gehenim is the suffering in Gehenim. The suffering that's hard and tough, that's a way to get people to be Mechabed Shem Shamayim and avoid all those confusions. Maybe that's why it's in the second day, which means if you go with the first day mode, if you behave like a person of not Sunday, of the first day of creation, that's great. Because then you're Mechabed Shem Shamayim, the nice, straightforward way, with Haras Panim. But if you're going for plan B, meaning you're not the person who served Hashem and you got to go to Gehenim, you also Mechabed Shem Shamayim, but that's already in the secondary way. That's kilu, not the straight normal Achdus Hashem. You realize Achdus Hashem by not following that confusion, but realizing, but that's already plan B. That's already the second way, not the first way. Maybe that's pshat over here. Could be. Now, and as I started saying, Gehenim is not the ultimate punishment, as I saw in the Sefer Tikkun Tshuva, V'Talmid Talmid Arizal, Tikkun Tshuva, Naftali Bachrach. Naftali Bachrach was a German Rav, Talmud Chacham in the times of the Arizal. He studied by the Arizal stuff, and then he went to Europe to divulge and teach the Torah of Taras Kabbalah, Taras Ari, to the European Talmid Chachamim. And he says, again, the tsar of Gehenim is only 1/60th of the tsar the neshama gets before Gan Eden, before Gehenim. In other words, the beginning of the process, before a person gets to Gehenim, the tsar, the pain is much, much worse than Gehenim. Why is that? Well, first of all, there are other stages before Gehenim, which I promise I will not talk about now, because these are all kinds of really horrible things. Chibut HaKever, v'chulei, malachim hitting you, that's not the topic for today. Even I have my limits, I guess, and with all my straightforward approach. And the the Gehenim is actually when a person is already coming to a tikkun, which is pre-Gan Eden. Because as we know, Gehenim is only temporary, unless you're a really, really bad person, which is very rare, nobody in this room. Yeah, Gehenim is only a temporary stage, yeah, up to 12 months, not more than that, and for many people much less than 12 months. So because Gehenim is only temporary, Gehenim is basically a laundromat. You go, not nice, not a good one, but Gehenim is a way of purifying yourself before Gan Eden, and then you're clean, you can go to Gan Eden, we're going to stay forever and ever in ultimate bliss, which you can't imagine. But still, let's not run away. What is really that horrible punishment before Gehenim? What can be worse than Gehenim? Yeah? So there are all kinds of things. I would like to quote here the Kafakela. I don't want to talk about it now. Says Rabbeinu Yoina about a person that's a scare. Rabbeinu Yoina Shar Sheni Ois Yudche. Says Rabbeinu Yoina, and he doesn't talk about a non-from person. That's a lot of Bali Musar talk about it. He talks about a person who's driven only by taiva. He keeps the mitzvah just about what drives him is only taiva covered. Whatever, black thing, all learning, davening, but what he cares about the whole time is taiva, kovet, gaiva. His mind is in the wrong place. So therefore, such a person clearly did not maximize his potential, right? What happens to everybody, both Rishonim and Tzaddikim and all these people in between, you know, the black and white guy who's his mind is somewhere else. Every neshama goes up to the Kisa Kovod. Yeah, she goes, and all neshamas go at the beginning to a very, very high place. And not exactly on a. They're not going to Orlando when they go up there to the Kisa Kovod. They're going ledin ulamishpat. Why? Lirois echechlifa morim b'shol, to see how you switched. Yeah, how you traded maroim in Gehenim. In other words, a person realizes when it comes to Olam Emes that his life was one big baloney. I mean, everyone has mitzvahs, everyone has Torah, everyone will make it to Gan Eden, but he realizes, soon we'll see what he realizes something is wrong, and then he goes up to the highest level to watch. What's he watching up there in Kisa Kavod? To watch the potential, what he could have become. You did the mitzvahs, you put on your tefillin, you did the davening, you did the tzedakah, v'chula, but you could have done so much more, and then the guy goes to Sheol to Gehenim to purify himself. That frustration of knowing what I could have been and I'm not, that alone is worse than Gehenim. That's worse than Gehenim, as many Balaam mentioned that too. And that can explain to us the another Gemara.
That's the before.
Yeah. And then he goes down to Sheol. It goes up, and then boom to Sheol, and then he's in a way happy to be in Sheol. That I didn't see inside this time. I remember hearing him many times. He's happy to. What do you mean happy? He's kind of understands. It makes sense to him that he wants to purify himself now because he wants to get to that high level. Which gets us to another point, and that to do with that, the Gemara in Bava Basra Daf Amud Aleph, it says even about Gan Eden, even in Gan Eden there are different levels. Each person has a chuppah. Each person has his own compartment in Gan Eden, and it says, "Kayadu Amar Bichanina, melamed shekol echad veechad nichve mechupaso shel chaveroi, oilo lo sobusha, oilo lo klima," which means each and every person can burn, even in Gan Eden to a point. Why? Because he realizes, wow, my friend has it much more than me. Or not that my friend has a Lexus or a Tesla while I have a Toyota, or he has a big house while I have a small apartment. No. He has Netzach Netzochim that's better than mine. And that frustration, that applies to even in Gan Eden to a certain point, although a person can go up in Gan Eden, as we'll see later. But in Gehenim, so much more. All the more so in Gehenim, a person realizes, I could have done there, I could have been there, and I'm not. That's a reason to incentivize us right now to become better people. Just like there are 7 dargas in Gan Eden, there are 7 dargas in Gehenim. Shiva Medar Gehenim. In Gehenim there are 7 levels, one lower than the other. And as we know from David HaMelech, it says in the Gemara in the Soito, David HaMelech, he says about Avshalom. Avshalom was the worst son anybody can imagine. Anybody has problems with the kids, so you're doing good comparing to David. His son tried to kill him, got the whole nation against him, rebelled. He had relations with 10 of David's wives. That's a lot. Publicly. Not good kid. So then they didn't have Akiva back then. That was a problem. So basically, that's a story. David HaMelech cried over Avshalom, and he said 7 times the word Bini. Why? Because he wanted to lift his neshama from, and then the 8th time, he lifted him from 7 Medorim, 7 sections of Gehenim, and then lifted it up to Gan Eden, Avshalom. See the father, that's real unconditional love, as they say today. So basically, we see that it's all levels. Gehenim and Gan Eden are both levels of 7 and 7. It's a matter of going up, and it's all about the potential. The potential, either within the world of Rishonim or the world of Tzaddikim, the potential you could have reached and you didn't, that frustration, that the dark you're in, that's what it's about. So let's not be frustrated, but rather get into action. Now, another famous story about that, I hope to, I think I have enough time just about. There's a story, and I heard this story, but I researched it yesterday, it's a chokhmah. There are a few versions to the story. It's the wife of the Gaon Vilna. The wife of the Gaon, she was that's I think the most reliable version is the Chatzkel Abramsky said that he heard it from someone. He saw this story written in the ledger of the Chevra Kadisha of Vilna. That sounds quite, but I saw it in the Dirshu website, so I hope they're reliable. From all the versions, that's the most reliable. Basically, the wife of the Gaon, she was the Gaboist Tzedakah with her friend, and they went collecting, and the wife of the the more reliable version is they collected tzedakah and gave tzedakah to the aniyim. And the wife of the Gaon and a friend were walking together down the street, and then there was a poor man who said he needs tzedakah from them. You're the gaboyois, so give me some tzedakah. So the friend of the Gaon's wife, she said, okay, come over here, come to our side of the street, with all the respect, and come, and I'll give you the money. She gave him the money. He was very, very happy. Psh, what a beautiful mitzvah. Amazing, right? So now she came to the Gaon's wife after she was nifter. The friend was nifter before the Gaon's wife. And she told her, I'm in Shamayim, and Baruch Hashem, it's a big mitzvah, tzedakah, but I'm very, very frustrated because I should have crossed the street to give him the money. Instead, I told him to come here to me, which is a bit degrading for him, or a tircha. I should have got out of my comfort zone and crossed the street. Vilna, many years ago, I don't think there was a lot of traffic there. There was no road safety issues. She should have gone to the other side, and she didn't. And because of that, she wasn't punished, but she could have made it 1 millimeter higher in Gan Eden. That bothered her the whole time. However, of course, as we know, you can do something about it. You do your best in Olam Hazeh, and in order to elevate the neshama in Olam Haba, that's why there's Kaddish. That's why there is a concept of Sfos of Dovavas Bekever, people who write Chidush Torah, or I hope it works for video as well, I don't know, or you divulge Chidush Torah, you spread Torah, and if people learn your Torah that you give after your nifter, after 120, that also uplifts you in Gan Eden to higher and higher levels. You can't imagine somebody like Rashi or the Amoraim Tanoim, every second they go higher and higher in Gan Eden. So yes, you can move forwards in Olam Haba. Okay, now for the good news. So the good news is, as we all know, but not many people know. But I assume here everybody knows. We have to say this to people who are less informed. If you get to talk to people who are new to Judaism or not yet from, it's not like Gehenim is where the Rishonim go and Gan Eden is where the Tzaddikim go. As we said before, Gehenim is a temporary stage. It's not the first stage, for sure not, but it's a temporary stage before Gan Eden. And the temporary stage is about cleansing. It's not nice, it's painful, so let's not whitewash it, but it's a good cleansing before Gan Eden. The Gehenim is up to 12 months, depends, it can be from, I guess, a few minutes for big tzaddikim to up to 12 months. That's why Kaddish is 11 months, to show that the person we say Kaddish for, we assume he's not Rosha that has the entire sentence till the end of the year. And that also explains to us another Nakuda. There's another good Nakuda to do with that. That's the Gemara at the very end of Chagiga. The Gemara says that Omar Babomar Blazer Talmidei Chachamim En Ur Shel Gehenim Shaletes Ben. Talmidei Chachamim, the fire of Gehenim does not take hold of them, does not take control of Talmidei Chachamim. Sounds if Talmid Chacham, there's no Gehenim for you. And we say why? Salamandra. Salamandra is an interesting creature described in the Gemara. Salamandra is some kind of salamander, whatever. In science it means something else. It's some kind of animal that's created from fire. If you have fire on for 7 years, salamandra will be created, and that salamander is not affected by fire. If you smear on yourself the blood of the salamander, you are not affected by fire. It's the best burn shield possible, like we have today. And therefore, Talmidei Chachamim, they're all fire. Because they kol gufan eish. The body of a Talmid Chacham is all eish, and therefore there is no Gehenim doesn't control him. Omer Ashlakish, even better. It gets even better. Ein ur shel Gehenim shaletis b'Poshe Yisrael. Even Poshe Yisrael. The Poshe Yisrael, the person is mamash is not keeping Torah mitzvahs, and yet the fire doesn't take hold of him. Why? Mizbeach Hazav. He has the whole thing. The Mizbeach Hazav had a very thin layer of gold. The Mizbeach in the Beis Hamikdash, and the fire was on it the whole time. Kol sheken. The simple people of Israel, even the Poishim, Milein mitzvahs karimoin, and therefore there's so many mitzvahs that are controlled. What does it mean? That they control the fire because they're full of mitzvahs. Now it doesn't mean, the Mefarshim say, sadly, that it doesn't mean Talmid Chachamim or the Poishim don't get Gehenim at all. It means ein sholetes behen. It doesn't consume them completely. It does not consume them completely. They get some kind of punishment, but not not the whole thing. There's a protection, which means that eventually to go to Gan Eden, they're not just all, they don't all go poof and all burnt out by Gehenna's fire because of Torah, which is like fire. Something even nicer, but the Talmid Chachomim, the Maharsha says, why Dafka Talmid Chachomim? Why not Tzadikim, right? Talmid Chachomim, yeah. Why Dafka Talmid Chacham is one singled out as somebody that the Esh? What's whole comparison to the Salamandra? Says the Maharsha, a Talmid Chacham is a real Talmid Chacham is really involved in Torah. What's Torah? Fire. If a Talmid Chacham is on fire, Talmid Chacham that's all fire about Torah. One thing fire cannot burn. Okay, maybe diamonds. I don't know. One thing the fire cannot burn is fire itself. Fire can't burn fire. It's fire. So Talmid Chacham who's, as they say, on fire. He's on fire. He's learning, involved in learning, in teaching. He's all excited about it. That person himself is lit with the fire of Torah. Yeah, he burns in a positive way, of course. It emanates from him. That's what I mean. He creates the fire. So such a person is not affected with the fire of Ganem because, hey, who are you? I'm also fire. So the more we learn Torah, the more we're excited about Torah. That's a very big eitzah to be saved from Ganem. Talmid Chacham doesn't have to be a person who sits and learns the whole day. You have your kviyus itim, and you don't just drowse over the daf yomi, but you're on fire and you ask good questions, like some people I know, and you're into it and you live it, even if you work throughout the day. But what matters for you is Torah, the opposite of the person described or Ben Yoino. That's a good eitzah to be on the right side of the fire, not on the wrong side of the fire. That's why, by the way, very interesting. That's why Shabbos is a day off in Gehenim, as it says in the Zohar. I don't learn Zohar, but I looked up this time to see that everything is sourced over here. Why is fire? Why does fire not function? Why does fire of Gehenim? Why doesn't it function on Shabbos? Because it says over there in the Perush Bir Yaakov of Rabbi Chatzera, he says because, funnily enough, it's not because of Shabbos itself, according to him at least. Because Torah was given on Shabbos. Torah was given on Shabbos. L'kula alma. Oh, Shavuos is coming up. Machlokas, whether it was right, Vav Sivan or Zayin Sivan, but everybody knows the Torah was given when? On Shabbos, right? Oh, so Shabbos and Torah are connected. Shabbos is the day, is also the so to speak, the pair, the one paired up with Shabbos is Torah, right? Every day of the week has a pair. Shabbos is alone and Torah is alone. They're together. That's why what you should be in Shabbos more than anything else is eat another plate up, is learn Torah. Yeah? And therefore, because of that, the fire is off. Because Shabbos is a Torah Dikadei, the Torah, the Torah Dikah fire is now taking control, and therefore the Gehenna fire is off. That's the reason. Interesting. That's why when we say V'hurachum, people should be makpid in all the shuls. When we say V'hurachum on Motzei Shabbos, you have to say V'hurachum. People don't always do that, especially the young guys. No, really, I'm not exactly like I did it here, but you have to be marichin V'hu, to allow the neshamas more time out of Gehenna before they come back on Motzei Shabbos. And the best eitzah, with that we'll finish, the best eitzah to be saved from Gehenna is what the Gemara says at the end of Erchin. The Gemara says in Erchin, and the Gemara says there that Yisur Mechaprim. Yisur Mechaprim is a very, very, very great thing. The Gemara describes all kinds of funny, very, very kind of almost unnoticeable Yisurim. Whatever, instead of hot, the water is cold, or whatever, you stick your hand in the pocket to get 2 coins and got 3 of the other way around. You get the wrong change. So such small shtiyot that every Baal Musa will tell you, you're bigger than that, what do you care about it? But every little Yisur Mechaprim is a big, big, big kapar in Gehenim. I'll finish with this story, one more minute. Once gave a shir in Gehenim, and I think the Goan was much starker than this year, and one person was listening to the shir, actually fell ill. Maj got sick from listening to the shir. He was so scared of the Gehenim descriptions. So they told the Goan, maybe go to his house and make it a little bit nicer, be like more 2025 kind of, make it nicer and easier and more palatable and more smooth and peaches and cream. The God says, I can't. No, the truth is the truth, but I want to help the guy. So the God told him, as bad as Gehenim is, as I described yesterday in Shir, Yisur Mechaprim is an amazing, amazing, amazing way to get out of Gehenim. So there is a kapara. So we stick to Torah, we strive to be close to Hashem, and if we have Yisurim, we accept. We don't want Yisurim. Lo hem v'lo yischolam, as the word says in Brochas Dafei. But Lamaisa, if Yisurim come upon a person, from small to, unfortunately, sometimes Yisurim are very big, these is not a reason to complain. Adrabah, every part of the Yisurim is a way to get us out of Chalila, much, much worse punishment in Olam Haba. And as we said at the end, Gan Eden is, as opposed to Gan Eden, which we can relate to, fire. Gan Eden is so much greater than anything imaginable in Olam Hazeh. Ayin l'ros alokim zelasecha. The Hano lev in Gan Eden can't be even compared. That's why people don't think about Gan Eden, because they can't even relate to sitting and basking in the light of Hashem. What does it mean? The Hano is so much greater and so much longer. Gan Eden is 12 months max. And Gan Eden is forever and ever. And hopefully we'll be in a higher place in Gan Eden. And therefore, let's look at the positive side. There are people who always stand Gan Eden for life, but these people are not here. These are Pikorsim, Mechtia Rabbi, V'chulei. But Baruch Hashem, we should all be Zechet to Gan Eden, Zechet to Atzlacha of Rachash, Zechet to Mashiach. And thank you for staying throughout this year. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this hot topic. Sorry. I had to say that. Thank you, Lev. Thank you for your assistance, arranging, and the film producing. Yeah.
In the Kappa